Okay, so that's just like a heads up if anyone doesn't want their face recorded, you can turn your camera off. Everyone who's watching the recording, sorry, we got excited and started without you. So we're only 2 slides in, so you haven't missed much. If you have your workbook, it'll cover everything that we've covered up to this point. So yeah, the basic framework for mapping your desires is identify core desired feeling, clarify it, plan, and then live it. So yeah, take a moment and consider how do you want to feel this year as you're working towards your goals. Feel free to drop your power word in the chat. I'm curious to, I can't see it now, but I'll look on the break. I'm curious to hear what comes to mind for you. Mine for this year is gratitude, because it's something that initially I had thought abundance, but I think in digging deeper, I think gratitude is really at the root. Gratitude for me is the ultimate presence and connection to the present moment and respect and honoring it and feeling focused on the good. And despite what is going on in my life, there's always something to be grateful for. So yeah, feel free to drop your word in the chat. I will check that on our break. I really wish that I could see it all at the same time, but hey, Nicole, thanks for joining. I have a new friend coming in. Okay. So now we can dive into, more traditional goal setting. I think the desire mapping is a great thing to pair with traditional goal setting because it really combines that feminine feeling with that masculine structure. And so, the basics are, I like to kind of just like brain dump out on a piece of paper, like what is everything that I'm wanting to achieve? Like what is everything that's coming to mind? And then I can start organizing it into long-term, mid-term, and short-term, or immediate and recurring tasks. And then we can start, once we have the idea of the big kind of major goals, then we can really start to break them down into smaller action steps and start plugging them in. So you want to consider goals for different areas of your life. It doesn't just have to be your career, I feel like that's like a common area that people set goals for, but you want to have goals for, in my opinion, for all areas of life, like your home life, your professional, financial, wellness, travel, relationships. The more that you are clear on what it is you're available for and what you're wanting to attract in, the more the universe can co-create with you and support those visions manifesting. So here's like a little example that I started for outlining your goals. Feel free to jot down some ideas in your workbook, or if you just have a piece of paper and pen. But a long-term goal for this year is traveling to Hawaii. We were planning to go, my boyfriend and I were planning to go this past October, and Ms. Rona kind of threw a wrench in our plans. So we have the flight credits. So we're going to try to do that again this year. A midterm goal is a breathwork certification. And then short term, I am really excited to launch a group program this spring. So yeah, I like to think of like long-term goals as being like 1 to 3 years, midterm as 6 months to 1 year, and short term as 3 to 6 months. Of course, like, if you have a goal that you want to achieve next month, that would also be like a short-term goal as well. But I kind of think of those as more of like immediate. And you can also have like recurring goals, like habits, like your healthy habits, or things that maybe like your cleaning schedule at home. You want to be planning everything in that you need to do, because this once you come up with a solid plan, it gives you more freedom, and less stress like swirling around in your head, because you already know what you're wanting to achieve and you're not leaving things up to chance. So now comes the fun part, is breaking these bigger goals down into action steps. And so it's really just a matter of, deconstructing these goals into steps that feel doable, and realistic for you. If it's feeling too challenging, or you're not feeling like it's something that you're confident in, it may be a sign that it's just not broken down into a smaller enough action step. It could be something as small as waking up 5 minutes earlier so that you have some extra time to do research on Hawaii. But before you get to that point, it's just starting with focusing on waking up earlier. So you want to, just break these down as much as you can into little digestible pieces. That way they don't feel as big and scary, because you're just tackling one piece at a time. And you might want to create periodic milestones for yourself, because this will really help to foster a sense of accomplishment and motivation. When you have something that you're working towards, if you want to build in a little reward for yourself once you get there, whatever you need to do to like support yourself in taking action, I recommend it. All right, now we get to SMART goals. So as you're breaking down your bigger goals into action steps, you want to try, not every goal will follow the SMART goal format, but you want to think about these things as you're creating your action steps. You can also think of it as like the who, what, where, why, when, or how of your goal. So, sorry, my mouth's getting dry from all this talking. So is it specific? Is your focus narrow and detailed, or is it too broad? Is it measurable? Like what kind of parameters can you set for yourself to help you measure and track your progress? It's kind of hard when you're just saying like, I want to work out more. Well, that could mean a lot of different things for different people. And it's why it can be so easy to kind of like shove to the side, because you don't have like a clear measurable idea of like how to gauge your success. So it might be, I would like to do 30 minutes of yoga 3 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, at 8 a.m. before work, or something like that. So that is specific, it's measurable. You want it to feel attainable. If 3 days a week isn't feeling attainable for you, start with one. I think it's a really common thing to like want to do all of the things and like start big when we're goal setting and just tackle everything. But, that's how we get lost and overwhelmed and then frustrated, and which can lead to inaction and feeling stuck. So you can always work up, starting small and getting that easy win under your belt. Like it builds motivation, it builds confidence. So is it attainable? Is it possible? Is this even like a realistic goal to maintain long term? don't just want to think about the short term. We want to think about the long term also. Like, is this a sustainable habit? And some goals are just short term goals and not like a habit that you're going to sustain. And that's fine. But these are all just things that you want to reflect on as you're breaking your goals down. So is it relevant? Is it realistic? Does it align with your bigger picture goals? Is it something that you feel ready to take on, or do you need to break it down more? And is there a time frame? When is the deadline? When are you needing to achieve this by? Or like, what days of the week do you need to be taking action? Really, just getting as specific as possible. It takes away the vagueness and the room for uncertainty. So you also want to be mindful of any like potential challenges or barriers too when you're goal setting, so that you can have kind of like a backup plan in place. Like, so if you're wanting to go on morning walks 3 days a week, but it's super cold outside and that's not feeling super realistic, what is your backup plan there? Like, what can you do instead on those days to still make yourself feel like you're making progress?
It's 8 o'clock.
So yeah, I want to invite you guys to drop in the chat, like, what is one SMART goal that you feel ready to take on in the short term, in the next 3 months? Feel free to, give it a try. And, I can definitely, on our break, I can go through and look at them and give you feedback if you're needing help breaking it down into something more specific. Okay. Now is the fun part, or at least in my opinion. It's getting organized and taking action. So now that you have your detail, you have your bigger picture goals, you have your detailed SMART goals, you're feeling ready and excited to take action. Now it's time to schedule those things in. And you want to schedule your goals in as if it was an important meeting with yourself, or, like a doctor's appointment or dentist appointment, like some other kind of meeting that is a non-negotiable. And it certainly, can take a little bit of practice of holding yourself accountable. But the more that you continue to work at things and really start to see the positive results of your effort, the more you'll feel motivated to continue. And a lot of people think like, oh, like, I don't have motivation. I wish I could find the motivation to do this or that. And, the funny thing about motivation is it often comes after we take action. It's not before. We have to kind of fight ourselves a little bit to get over that initial hump of inertia after, maybe not taking action for some time and feeling that resistance. It's normal to feel resistance, and you have to kind of use your mindset as a tool to overcome that little voice in your head that's like, no, I'd rather just stay comfortable and not do whatever XYZ. That's your chance to kind of defy it in a way and push through and really set that energy in motion. And if scheduling in these action items, several months out doesn't feel realistic to you or practical, you might just want to, on some of the longer term goals, like put a general time frame. So like a general month that you want to have it completed by, or even a quarter, like what quarter of the year would you like to have this achieved by? And just like make a note, like if you have like a hard like paper planner, or like somewhere where it has like the month spread, I like to go in there and then write what that goal is. And then once it gets closer to the month, you can actually go ahead and then schedule it in, like the action item in on specific days. Scheduling things in and your steps in advance will give you the framework to start with, but like you can always, nothing's set in stone. You can always move things around if you really need to, or, sometimes our plans and goals change, and that's okay too. But just getting them on the books is like also another step of like self accountability. It's your commitment to yourself, and you're setting those intentions. You're taking the intangible and making it tangible by just writing it out and starting to set that energy in motion. Okay, I'll go for like 10 more minutes, and then we'll take like a short break where you can pop your questions in the chat, and we'll go to the bathroom, get more tea or water. But for now, let's just keep going. So this next section is finding your flow, creating a workflow that works for you. A workflow is essentially just like a standardized process that you can use to accomplish your task. It's like a consistent way of doing things that best utilizes your time and your energy. So consider your own rhythm of creation. Like, how do you work best? You know yourself better than anyone else. So like, what is your, I think it's called like a chronotype, but like, do you feel most productive in the mornings, in the afternoons, in the evenings? When do you feel most inspired? Like, when do your best ideas come? If you guys, I don't know if you guys, I think, I know Gabby knows, but like cycle syncing, if you track your menstrual cycle, there's certain phases of your menstrual cycle where your energy is different and changing. So that's like another thing that you can keep in mind of like when you're most productive within your monthly cycle. So I'm curious, do you guys find that you're most productive in the mornings or the afternoons or the evenings? Feel free to put your answer in the chat. I'm just curious, just out for my own, I guess, self-knowledge, and I feel like it can shift over time, because I used to be like a night owl, and now I'm finding that I am more productive in the mornings. But I can still, I still can get a lot done at night. Whereas like my boyfriend's like, I don't know how you're doing work right now. It's like 11 o'clock. I'm so tired. And I'm like, I don't know. So aside from like timing, it's also like knowing, like, do you work better when you have like a super detailed and clear cuts schedule penciled in, or do you work better when you have more general blocks of times for types of tasks, which still has the structure, but it also has a little bit more flexibility. I've found that this is how I work best, because having a super rigid schedule can feel a little bit restricting to me, or if something then comes up, then it throws off everything. And I find that building in blocks of time for self-care, for working on my business, for connecting with friends, like scheduling in these blocks of time, it ensures that we're giving these things that we care about, that are important to us, this space that we want and that they deserve. And you also want to keep in mind like any schedule obligations, or other people, like if you have roommates or you live with a partner, like what is their schedule like, and what time of day makes the most sense to get certain things done. Are there any scheduling conflicts or things that you need to be aware of? Are there any like activities that you can bundle together? Like say, instead of devoting separate time for listening to podcasts and going on walks, like can you combine them and utilize that time a little bit more efficiently? One of the biggest, I don't want to say complaints, but one of the biggest challenges that people face these days is time. And feeling like we don't have enough time to get everything done that we want to. And so that's why it's even more important to get really deliberate in your planning and be sure that you are carving out the space for the things that are important to you. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, and it's really just about, what are your priorities? What are you willing to, what are your trade-offs that you're willing to make? And what's most important to you? And then making the time for that. So just experiment and find your flow. There's no really right or wrong way. It's just like whatever works best for you. Okay. And yeah, I love this quote. I forgot to put it on there, but it's by Christy Dickerson. This book called Start Balancing. It's an awesome book if you're into like organization and time management. And she just has so many like good tips for making the most of what you got essentially. And I used to be pretty resistant against like a very structured routine, but the more that I saw that, the more structure and I had and like deliberate I got in my planning, it gives way to more freedom and flexibility. And so, routine doesn't have to become a point of resistance. Structure, in fact, can create the architecture for your day that results in more ease and freedom. So finding a task management system that works for you is really important. It's a way to stay on top of all your tasks while also staying connected to the bigger picture. And, it's really up to you if you want to use like a paper planner or bullet journal. By the way, Gabby is a bullet journal queen. She inspired me to start this bullet journal. And if you are looking for, I think she does like done for you templates and stuff. So if you are wanting to get more organized and start bullet journaling, definitely hit her up. Gabby, drop your info in the chat so people can connect with you. But yeah, I included like a little screenshot from the Start Balancing book of an example of managing daily tasks. But I think it's super helpful. Like, I don't know, it's kind of probably will be hard to see, but like starting at the top, I have like my top three tasks for the day. And then you can fill in below like any, scheduling, like any to-dos that you have for the day, any meetings, plans or whatnot. And so because I used like just listing out all of your to-dos, like having a master to-do list is important. I have one of those as well. I'm a huge list person. But so you can brain dump everything out into your like master list, but then having those top three priorities, it really helps to give you focus in the day, because it can get easy to get caught up in these other like less important to-dos or like busy work. It makes us feel like we're being productive, we're doing these things, but like creating a houseplant tracker isn't necessarily like my priority right now. Getting the slides done for this goal setting workshop and sharing the workbook and sending out the emails and stuff were like the priority tasks. So it's like we can better hold ourselves accountable when we give ourselves honestly less options of like, these are the top three things that I need to do. If I get those done and then I have extra time or energy, then we can do the other stuff. So yeah, whether you want to have like a bullet journal, a paper journal, hard copy journal, or even just like Google Calendar is really awesome for blocking out time. Like I'm on the computer every day. And so I honestly, I liked having both because the Google Calendar allows me to put in those blocks of time and get a really nice visual of what I have going on. And then the bullet journal is like a place where I really just like writing by hand still. So it's a place where I can track like my mood and my moon cycle and the phases of the moon. I like to do a card pull every week and then use that as a journal prompt and journal in there. It's like my little hub, my personal hub, whereas like the Google Calendar is more about just blocking out, creating those blocks of time. You could also use like initially before I started using Google, I used an Excel spreadsheet. So you can definitely do that. However you want to do it, you just want to have somewhere where you're managing daily tasks, maybe mapping out your morning and evening routines, tracking your habits, and then tracking your goals. So as you've had your bigger picture goals and you've started to break them down into action steps, you want to start scheduling them in where you know that they fit into your calendar or planner. And as I mentioned, like if you're not ready to like fully schedule it in, if you want to just have like a place that like master kind of to do or goal list going, and then as you get closer to the time frame, then you can like plug them into the exact day and time. All right, so we're about like halfway through. Let's take like a 5-minute break, go to the bathroom, get more water or tea. I'm curious what's going on in the chat because I can't see it. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second and let's come back in a few minutes. I'll put some music back on. Jenna, I'm gonna send you the workbook now, in case you didn't get it before. Breathe. my gosh, you guys are awesome. Looking through the chat here, helping each other out. I'm gonna go pee real quick now. Breathe. Okay, that was like perfect timing. So for everyone watching the replay, I'll just kind of recap on the chat here. Some of the words, the power words for this year are confidence, surrender and trust, surrender and gratitude. So we have 2 surrenders. Nicole said she's using the Wheel of Life to set goals this year, which if you guys aren't familiar with, it's essentially kind of like a pie chart. It has different areas of our lives. So there's like relationships, physical activity, home environment, finance, career, home cooking. I forget what else is on there. Nicole, if you know, you can feel free to share. But it's a great visual. It's a great tool to really kind of assess where you're at in those different areas in terms of satisfaction and what you might want to improve. SMART goal, create a course for accountability coaching business by May 2021. Love that time bound on there. Yeah, getting over that hump of resistance. Yeah, it's always literally the hardest part, and there's nothing wrong with you. Like, I think so many people that I work with, I think that there's something wrong with them for like not being able to push past that initial resistance, and or feel like, you know, it's just them, but it's really something that we all experience. And you can almost think of that resistance as like a mini initiation, you know, like, am I willing to push past this feeling of discomfort? I mean, what is resistance anyways? Like, it's just a feeling, right, in our body. And it's something that we get caught up. We give it this like persona or like this like extra power over us, but it's really just a feeling, right? And so we can, you know, what is that feeling of kind of our chest feeling tighter or stomach feeling heavier? And you know, what is that to dictate who we are and want to be in our life? So it's really interesting. We have some morning people, some afternoon people, and some evening and night people in terms of when you're most productive. Gabby said, I'm more productive Monday through Wednesday, basically useless on Thursdays through the weekend. Yes. Shelby, SMART goals, get stronger through weight training 2 times a week. So then Shelby, I would ask you just to make it a little bit more specific, like what are those 2 days? Can you designate, you know, 2 consistent days a week? And what time of day, at least, if it's not a specific time, what time of day could you schedule that in? Blocks of time working best. Yeah, resistance is fear-based. And so something that it can be helpful to like give that resistance a name to like kind of help separate it from yourself. and maybe make it a silly name, maybe make it something that makes it feel like less intimidating, and really kind of like make a case with it. Like what argument or what evidence do I have that supports this? Like what are the benefits of not taking action versus what are the benefits of taking action, and really just kind of like lay it out for yourself and be like, I don't have to do anything. I can choose whatever I want. I'm a sovereign being. I can sit on the couch all day if I want to. But the part that really gets us is that guilt and that shame when we're just like, we know that we're not living in alignment with what we want for ourselves, with what we know is possible. And so really kind of finding a way to make that case against like, or to yourself of like, why is it worth taking action versus staying the same? Why is it worth the effort? And then just let yourself decide. Take some of that pressure off of yourself that you don't have to do anything. This is a choice. But we live in a cause and effect universe, and like our actions have consequences. So yeah, a little tangent there. Let's dive back into the presentation here. Get up. Oops. All right. Are you guys seeing the presentation again? Okay. Cool. Trying to. All right. So yeah, I just wanted to share like a few tips for staying accountable, because setting goals is one thing, but it's following through on them and making them happen is the most important part. So we've already covered some of the tips and tricks that support accountability with, knowing when you work best and making your goals super specific and as smart as you can. But some other things I wanted to touch on is, staying big picture minded, like staying connected to that dream life visualization that we did earlier, staying connected to your why. Like, what is the deeper why behind your actions? Like, why is it worth making a change? And why is it important to you? Like, how will your life be different? What kind of what is becoming possible for you by taking these actions? And because sometimes we can get caught up in like all of the work that we have left to do, or it feeling like farther away, or we hit road bumps and get discouraged. But failing is a part of the process, and I like to think of those as like little initiations too. Like, am I willing to push past this like mini test? And because it's almost like the universe is like testing you, like, do you really want this? Like, you say that you want these things, but like, do you deserve, or are you willing to do what it takes to be the person who can have the things you want to have? I'll say that again, because that was like a quote that like really hit home for me, that a friend shared with me. And it was, are you willing to do what it takes to be the person who has the things you want to have? And there's ways that we can support ourselves along the way too. It's like, our subconscious mind learns through repetition. So the more that we can lean into that, how it works, and really reinforce those positive behaviors while kind of diminishing the setbacks and really transmuting them into learning experiences, we can continue to make progress and move forward. So setting reminders for yourself, like the reminders app on the iPhone is like one of my like lifebloods, because I get random ideas, like in the most, I don't know, inconvenient places, or like think of, things that I need to do. And I used to try to just like trust myself to remember it all and keep track of it all. But I've found that it's not always the case. So literally just as soon as I think of it, I plug it into my reminders app, even if it's just like something small, like, don't forget to mail a letter tomorrow, or like, because that way it's not only in my bullet journal, but I'm getting an alert to also help like keep me on track. So triggers, like visual triggers, is like another thing that you can use if you're trying to start that strength training routine. Shelby, like setting out maybe your weights and your workout clothes, like the night before of the mornings that that you want to do your workout, like having that visual trigger to remind yourself of your goal. It adds that extra layer of accountability. And so also like sharing your goals with others, like telling your friends what they are, maybe even getting them involved and being like, hey, do you want to hold each other accountable to getting more active? Like, I'm really struggling and I need some help. And I feel like more often than not, like your friends are more than happy to support you. And maybe it's even like your partner, or coworkers, or having a coach or a mentor, or even like a counselor or therapist. Like, just have somebody that you can share your goals with, and that they can check in and help, keep you on track. And I think it's also like important to do like regular pulse checks with yourself, like whether it's daily or weekly, maybe just like a monthly like recap. Like, how did this month go? How successful on a scale of 1 to 10 am I feeling? And rating yourself. And then, because that's a really good way to track your progress. When you're like looking back, you can compare those numbers and be like, okay, well, I only felt like I was a 3 this month in terms of success. Like, what kinds of things are coming up for me? Whereas like maybe in the next month, you're like, oh, I'm feeling like a 7. What kind of things were going on for me? What kinds of things were like supporting me and working really well? So yeah, just checking in with yourself and seeing like, does something need to be reworked? Is this goal even like relevant or supporting me anymore? Like, maybe you need to scrap it and find something else, like find a different goal that feels more in alignment. That's okay too. And maybe sometimes it's not that the goal isn't doable, but maybe you just need to take some extra steps to support yourself, or find some additional resources, maybe educate yourself a little bit more on like, what are the benefits of strength training, or how can you make it feel like more of a priority for yourself? If you're really struggling to like make something happen, how can you make it feel more important to you? Okay. So mindset. While goals are like, the action steps are certainly the foundation and the blueprint for your success. You can do all the planning in the world, but if your mindset is working against you, you will not be successful, or it'll be much harder to achieve the results that you want. So, is checking in, like, are the thoughts that I'm telling myself on a daily basis, are they supportive of me working out my goals? Are they supportive and embodying my power word? Or are they, in complete opposition of that? Self-efficacy, or being able to hold yourself accountable, is supported by having a growth mindset. And oftentimes, like especially when we're starting something new, it can be really easy to get caught in a fixed mindset. And a fixed mindset is basically where you don't feel like you can grow intellectually, and you'll remain limited by failure. And you might give up easy and take challenges like really personally and feel like discouraged and hopeless and overwhelmed. And so you might be saying like, I'll never be good at this, or this is too hard. There are so many people out there that are better at this than me. It's just not in the cards for me. Like, these are examples of a fixed mindset. Whereas like a growth mindset, you embrace challenges, you use them as opportunities to grow. And, everything can be a learning opportunity if you let it. So, it might be, failure makes me a better person, or even if I don't know how to yet, I can learn. No one can do what I do quite like me. I love Marie Forleo says everything is figure outable. And I love that, because I used to feel, and I still get intimidated, when I'm trying something new for the first time. Like, this was for this workshop, this is the first time that I set up and ran a Facebook ad myself, and an email campaign. And I almost like backed out of it. But my coach was like, she obviously was there to answer some of the questions, but she didn't hold my hand through it. She had me, she was asking the right questions about like, well, where can I find this information? And like, we live in a world where it's never been easier to figure out how to do something. Like, never before ever in human history can we have the answer to virtually anything at our fingertips. Like, the internet makes it so easy. You can watch a tutorial on everything. And it can be really overwhelming, but that is super empowering. Like, just think about that for a moment. Anything that you need to know how to do, you have access to the answers. It just takes committing your time and effort to figuring it out. And it might feel frustrating. You might have to go down some internet rabbit holes, or like several threads of support pages to like figure things out. But everything is figure outable. And that is something that can give you so much like peace and take away some anxiety. So yeah, just always be looking for opportunities to learn. Like, there's always a silver lining. There's always something that can, looking back on, you realize why that failure was a part of your life. I think sometimes it's pretty like miraculous, like looking back on my life, how I see how every little thing has led me exactly to where I am right now here with you guys. Like, wow, that's pretty awesome. And some of like the setbacks or the failures are like really painful times. Like, I mean, it was my abusive relationship and sexual assault that was the catapult for me to go down this path of holistic healing and health coaching. And while that was like the most difficult thing for me, it was also the biggest blessing, because it led me to this and doing work that lights up my soul. And so everything in our life is happening for us. It's not happening to us. So just remember that, like, when you're feeling like you're going through some hard times or life is against you, everything is an opportunity for you to step into your power more fully. All right, now we can get into the fun stuff here. Well, it's all fun in my opinion. And I don't have like a ton of time to go super in depth, but I think it's important. It's important when you are trying to embody success that you're not only thinking about the strategy and the structure and the steps that you need to take. It's not only about what you're doing, it's also about who you're being. And this is like where those core desired feelings can really come into play because, and I think that's honestly like the motivation behind um, the desire mapping concept is because it's connecting you to that feeling. Your feelings are like the energetic jet fuel behind your actions. You can be doing all the right things on paper, but if energetically and emotionally you are not in alignment, like if you're I don't know, if you're doing all of the things that you need to do to make a certain goal happen, like say launch your group program, Gabby, but if your energy isn't in alignment with that, if you're waking up every day constantly downing yourself, not feeling like anyone's going to show up, and really connecting with those feelings of like disappointment and unworthiness, and setting that like negative expectation, like self-fulfilling prophecies are like a real thing. And so it's so important to not only focus on the doing, but the energy that you're embodying, the emotions that you are feeling connected to. And this is where affirmations can be a little bit tricky, because I mean, I love affirmations. I think it's awesome to, as we mentioned, the subconscious mind is programmed based on repetition. So the more that we're like repeating things, I mean, everyone's like familiar with like, or at least I don't know, I'm thinking about like The Simpsons, where like Bart is writing on the board at the beginning, like, I will not, I don't know, whatever he's disrupt class or whatever, over and over again. That strategy, that is programming the subconscious mind essentially. So the more that we can lean into affirmations and affirm what it is that we want, like that's important. But if you're constantly like having little post-its everywhere, like calling in your perfect partner, but you're feeling like they don't exist and you're unlovable, and no one's going to want to be with you, or everyone's just gonna end up like the past people, like they're not in alignment, so it's not going to work. The beliefs and the emotion are what fuel the actual words in the affirmation. So it's not just saying them, but taking a moment to really like tuning in, like, how does it feel? How will it feel when this perfect partner comes into my life? Like, how will it feel when I launch this group program and I have, a full like class of really awesome people, and, getting to share my message, like tuning into that feeling is so important. And that's why like the visualization exercise we did in the beginning is connecting with that, trying it on in the quantum realm before it becomes real. So really focusing on making your faith more powerful than your fear. um, what kinds of things can you do to support yourself? Like, even if you don't feel confident right away on doing something, how can you help almost like trick yourself into believing it? Like, fake it till you make it, if that's what you have to do at first. And of course, there's like certain tricks like or tools available, like meditation and self like hypnotherapy or EFT. These are all like really great tools for kind of shifting and transmuting negative emotions. Um, but yeah, you want to just make sure that you are doing what you can to really embody the success that you desire. And that kind of comes back to like, are you willing to do what it takes to be the person who has the things that you want to have? And this is really like our power as being conscious creators of our reality, and taking responsibility for our own happiness. Like, we, as this past year has shown us, like we don't know what's going to happen. We don't have control over a lot of things in our external reality, but the only thing that we 100% have control over is like our mindset, our which then affects our emotions, which then affects how we show up and experience life and what gets mirrored back to us in the external. Like it's not the other way around. Like we need to be living from the inside out versus the outside in. What are the codes that you are programming your mind with? Think about it. Like your beliefs are your codes. What codes are you accepting and available for? Um, and so, yeah, like this being and doing, combining both of them, that is how we have harmony. That is how we have the most potential for success, because it's that sacred balance of masculine and feminine energy. And through the aligned action, organization, structure, support, that supports more flow and spaciousness and freedom and belief in our abilities and that energy like working with us. So it's really just marrying these two, the masculine and the feminine, that is how we can create the most potent manifestations in our lives. So I'm curious if you guys have experienced this. Like, have you had anything that you really wanted that maybe even seemed like impossible, but you were able to manifest it? And what worked for you? I'm curious to know. I guess that's kind of a big question, but um, it's crazy how well like this stuff works, especially when you're consistent. I mean, consistency, as with anything, is like really the key. But for several weeks, I was working on my money mindset. I know I grew up in a family where, scarcity mindset was like commonplace. And, I felt guilty about asking my mom to like buy me a pair of American Eagle jeans when she wanted me to just shop at JC Penney's. And I was like, oh, but like, please, like, can I be cool? And so it's like, those little things, they seem small, but like we carry that with us. They get internalized. Those become our codes and our beliefs about money. And, so that was something that I was working on with my coach. And every morning I was reading out my new money rules. And guys, it's crazy. Like I started making Poshmark sales. I got a promotion at my other coaching job. We got a stimulus check. Like I had a new client sign on, like out of nowhere, who was the perfect ideal client, messaged me and asked if she could pay in full. Like these things work when you work. And so definitely, if manifestation is something that you're new to, definitely explore it more. It's something that, I don't know, it's just super magical, but we can do our part in supporting those manifestations by taking aligned action. We can't just sit there waiting and wishing, for things to happen. We have to set that energy in motion and give that energy form. So yeah, that's really all that I have for you guys today. I think, it's just more than ever, this world needs your light. This world needs you showing up as your best self and living in alignment with the life that you desire. It's definitely possible for you. And whatever your bliss is, whatever brings you joy, strive towards really embodying that and setting yourself up with the goals that will lead you there. And we'll all help make the world a better place. If you're feeling inspired and ready to take action, I'm here to support you. I have a free 30-minute goal getter call that I'm only making available to the people either on this call or on the replay, where we can essentially just dive into your core why and explore, what is most important to you? We'll outline one short-term and long-term goal that you can start taking action on, because it's only 30 minutes. We can't delve into like a huge detailed plan, but I want to make sure that you're walking away with a few action items that you feel good about, that you have clarity on. And when we have more clarity, we feel more confident because we know what we need to do to make our goals happen, versus just kind of sitting there and feeling like this vague sense of like overwhelm. That's not empowering. Like that's how you get stuck and you keep letting life pass you by, honestly. So don't get discouraged when you face those like challenges or road bumps or blocks in motivation. Like there is no like rush for your life, like there is no timeline that you have to be on. Like you get to decide that. You get to decide what it is that you want to achieve and when you want to achieve it. But you don't have to do it alone. So whether it's connecting with some of the other people here in the group, in the Facebook group, or, just my hope is that you just at least support each other, because it can be really scary going at things alone, especially if you don't have a solid support system in your life right now. So I'm going to stop sharing. Sharing my screen so I can read the chat. I will pop the link for booking the Goal Getter call, free Goal Getter call, into the chat if you're feeling called to it. I'll also send it out with the replay. Just catching up on the chat here. Shelby said, "You're totally right. I have trouble committing to specific days in my schedule, but I know I can do it. I just need to have more willpower to make it happen on the specific days. Thanks for calling me out." Love you, Shelves. Gabby said, "Sometimes I have to remind myself to move away from the obligation energy, instead focus on the fact that I get to do the things for things like personal business tasks, posting on social media, etc." Honestly, that shift to I have to I get to has been huge. Like that is something that I tune into every time when I don't feel like working out. I don't feel like getting active. That's one of my like biggest motivational challenges. It's not like I enjoy it while I'm doing it. So I don't know why I resist it so much. It's like 5 minutes in, I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. Doing my yoga poses or going on my walk, listening to my podcast. Like even though it's cold, I'm bundled up and I'm like, oh, this is totally fine. But there are people out there that like don't have able bodies. They don't have 2 legs and 2 arms that can do the things that we can do. And I think about that sometimes too. Like, how can I like not be grateful for or use what I have to the best of my ability, when there are so many other people who would be dying to be in this position right now. So yeah, I love that you mentioned that. I get to versus I have to. All right. Yeah. Do you guys have we have a few like 8 minutes left or 7 minutes left. So if you have any questions, let me know, or anything that you, I don't know, any lingering thoughts or questions. I know that we covered a lot and it can be, a lot to take in at once. So I will be sending out the replay, and you have the workbook. I kind of created that as like basically just kind of reflect what we covered today so that you have something moving forward to look back on, and there's a space for you to start brainstorming and mapping out your goals. Again, if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out. Here to support you. You don't have to go at it alone. And yeah, just thank you for being here. Thank you for spending this time with me and witnessing me and holding space for everything that I had to say. So I appreciate you all. And if you guys want to drop your social media handles in the chat, if you want to follow each other, that's cool too. You're welcome. I think, yeah. Gabby, you shared your thing, right? For the bullet journals. Mm-hmm. You're welcome, Jenna. Hope it was helpful. I guess like before you go, maybe what was like one takeaway that you are leaving with that really like resonated, that you're bringing with you moving forward from the event? I'm just curious, I guess. Bullet journal. Yeah. I love it because it's so customizable. I've always had trouble finding a planner or journal like that worked for me, because there was like different things that I wanted to include. And then I got this awesome, it's like law of attraction planner, but it's like they literally, I don't know, they literally thought of anything and everything for a planner and put it all into one. And it was just like there were too many options of things for me, and maybe I just like got a little discouraged or like intimidated by it. But for me, I've found that just simple works better, because life is overwhelming already. There's a ton of things going on, so we don't want it to feel like a chore or like another have to. It should be supporting you in achieving the things that you want to achieve. The look at resistance as an initiation and give it a silly name tip. Yes. Jenna said, writing out goals is easy, but breaking them down and making them specific, not only to what I want to accomplish, but how does it feel and look, gave me a ton of clarity. The idea of my mindset manifesting positive outcomes really resonates with me. Yes. All right, ladies, I will give you 4 minutes of your evening back, and I'm going to stop recording.